Why is fuel so expensive? We've all heard the excuses. It's the war in the Middle East, refinery maintenance, summer blend gasoline, pipeline problems, hurricanes, global markets. Funny thing is, those explanations only seem to work in one direction. The minute crude oil prices go up, gas prices magically follow. And the minute crude oil prices come down, suddenly we're supposed to understand supply chains, inventories, refinery schedules, and market dynamics. Sorry, but I never bought that explanation. So as per usual, I started digging, and what I found wasn't another oil story. It wasn't really a political story either, and believe it or not, it wasn't even really about gasoline. It was about something quietly changing the way prices are set all over America. Almost nobody is talking about it. And honestly, that's when my eyebrows went up, because everyone was watching the headlines, and very few people were looking underneath them. But before we continue, I want to remind you to like, subscribe, and click that bell for notifications because this is just the beginning of the story. Let's start with something every driver already knows. The minute there's a crisis anywhere in the world, the price on that giant sign out front of the gas station seems to change overnight. A war starts, a pipeline shuts down, a hurricane heads toward the Gulf, oil traders get nervous, and it's almost like somebody flips a switch and gas prices jump. Now let's fast forward. The crisis ends. Shipping resumes. Oil prices fall. And the panic disappears. And somehow the gas station down the street suddenly discovers the meaning of patience. And that's when the explanations begin. We're still working through the inventory. It takes time. Wholesale contracts haven't caught up yet. The fuel in the ground was purchased at higher prices. Interesting, because none of these explanations ever seem to slow prices down on the way up. Apparently, gasoline arrives by SpaceX rocket when crude oil prices increase and Pony Express when crude oil falls. Now, Americans have been making that joke for decades because we've all experienced it. But here's what most people don't know. Economists have been studying this exact behavior for years. They've given it a name: rockets and feathers. Prices go up like rockets and come down like feathers. Most economists will tell you there's nothing mysterious about it. It's a combination of inventory difficulties, replacement costs, buyer behavior, and competition. Maybe, maybe not. Let's follow that for a minute. Most of these studies were written long before artificial intelligence started making pricing recommendations, long before companies had software monitoring competitors around the clock, long before algorithms could analyze thousands of pieces of market data in seconds. And that's when my eyebrows went up. Because if the market has changed, shouldn't we at least ask whether the old explanations still apply? We've spent the last 3 years hearing about artificial intelligence replacing jobs, replacing customer service, writers, programmers, and even artists. Meanwhile, AI quietly walked into one of the biggest weekly expenses for almost every American family. Hardly anyone noticed. Fuel isn't like buying a new television. You don't postpone driving to work because prices are high. You don't tell your kids they're not going to soccer practice because an algorithm decided today was a good day to optimize profit margins. Gasoline is not optional, and neither is diesel, because this is the only way to get around. Everyone, everywhere uses it. Trucks deliver groceries, farmers harvest crops, contractors build homes, and it's how every package gets delivered to your porch. How ambulances, police cars, and even school buses get their jobs done. Fuel touches nearly every dollar spent in this country, which means that something has changed in how fuel prices are determined. And this affects everyone, even people who proudly tell me, especially in the comments, they don't own a car or they own an EV and they don't need gasoline. It affects them too. Now here's where the story took a turn I wasn't expecting. I wasn't looking for a software company. Honestly, I didn't even know this software company's name or it existed. I doubt anyone's ever even heard of this company until now. I was reading through court filings, government documents, and company statements trying to answer one simple question. Why do prices all over the US always seem to move together? Then one name kept showing up. Calibrate, spelled with a K. That's when my eyebrows really went up. Not because I uncovered some secret. Actually, the opposite. Nobody was hiding it. The company openly markets what it does. It even stated it on their website. Its own marketing materials explain that it helps fuel retailers analyze competitors, traffic, demand, wholesale costs, local conditions, and dozens of other variables before recommending what it's calling optimal price. That word stopped me cold. Not competitive, not consumer friendly, optimal. Whenever I hear words like optimization, dynamic pricing, market efficiency, or enhanced customer experience, I instinctively reach for my wallet because somewhere in that sentence, the customer usually ends up paying more. Now, we talk every week about not overpaying at the dealership, at the pump, and even your car insurance. And if I told you that you were overpaying on your car insurance by hundreds of dollars a year, you'd fix it today. So why are so many people doing exactly that with their Medicare? Now, most people pick a Medicare plan once and never look at it again. Meanwhile, prices and coverage change every single year, just like model years in cars. Chapter reviews your current coverage for free and tells you honestly whether you're in the right plan or paying too much. People who work with Chapter save an average of $1,100 on healthcare costs, and that's real money back in your pocket. If your current plan is actually your best option, they'll tell you that too. And that's what honest advice looks like. Chapter helped my mother-in-law save a lot of money as well. Call Chapter today at 218-666-7429. Chapter is 218-666-7429 and save some money for yourself. Now, before anyone accuses me of jumping to conclusions, let me be very clear. Using pricing software is not illegal. Using artificial intelligence is not illegal. And being profitable isn't illegal. That's obvious. And that's when I found an ongoing lawsuit in California making allegations against Calibrate. The lawsuit filed June 22nd in the Eastern District of California accuses several major gas station operators of manipulating pump prices by using AI-driven pricing software from Calibrate Fuel Systems, a tool that allegedly uses competitor data to influence fuel costs. The complaint targets more than 1,700 gas stations across the state, including BP, Walmart, Marathon Petroleum, 7-Eleven, Albertsons, and Circle K. Plaintiffs argue that where the automated software is widely used, prices rose about 30 cents per gallon above what normal competition would have produced. The lawsuit calls it an illegal algorithmic price-fixing scheme orchestrated by algorithmic pricing company Calibrate and some of the state's largest fuel retailers. This software isn't just used in California. It's used across the entire United States and even in Europe. And I will be monitoring this lawsuit as it moves forward, and I'll be reporting back. If companies across an industry begin relying on algorithms to recommend pricing, are they still competing the way we think they are? I think not. Okay, so this is where some people are going to tell me you're putting on a tinfoil hat. Well, you can put on yours too. I'll wait. For years, we've worried about artificial intelligence replacing people. What if the bigger story is that artificial intelligence is quietly replacing competition? Because if that happens, this story just got a whole lot bigger than gasoline. And that's where the investigation really begins. Let's follow that for a minute. Calibrate isn't some little software company selling apps out of a garage. According to its own marketing, its pricing technology is used by many of America's largest fuel retailers. Millions of Americans pull into a gas station every day, assuming that station looked at the competition across the street and decided what price would attract customers. And that's how most of us picture competition working. One station charges $3.49. The guy across the street says, I'll make mine $3.46. Well, customers notice that, and everybody wins. That's capitalism. That's competition. But what if that's not happening anymore? What if the station owner isn't really deciding anything? What if the computer analyzes thousands of data points and simply recommends the price that produces the highest return? What makes them the most money? That's good for them, but not for us. Now multiply that, not by one station, but by thousands, many, many thousands, because we're no longer talking about one business making one decision. We're talking about an entire industry increasingly relying on algorithms to tell them what's the optimal price. Notice that word again, optimal. I keep coming back to it because the word matters. And if I asked consumers what they wanted from competition, I doubt anyone would answer, I hope companies optimize their margins. Customers want lower prices and companies want higher profits. These goals have always existed in tension. Competition is supposed to balance them. So here's the question I couldn't get out of my head. If competitors are increasingly using similar tools that rely on similar data to reach similar conclusions, Is competition starting to look different than what we think? Now, before someone clips this out of context, I'm not saying algorithms automatically create illegal collusion. They don't. And the lawsuit filed in California making those allegations has not been proven. And that matters. Courts exist for a reason. Facts, evidence, and due process matters. But asking questions, that also matters. Because history has taught us something. Technology almost always moves faster than regulation. Remember when social media was just supposed to connect old classmates, old friends that you haven't seen in years? Remember when smartphones, well, they were just phones. And remember when connected cars were only about your convenience? Well, every new technology arrives with a sales pitch. Only later do we discover the unintended consequences. Which brings me to something that almost nobody is willing to talk about. Gasoline isn't the only industry doing this. That's when my eyebrows really went up. Apartment rental companies have been accused of using algorithmic pricing. Hotels use it, airlines use it, ride-sharing companies use it, online retailers use it, insurance companies increasingly rely on predictive algorithms. The names are different, the software is different, but the philosophy sounds remarkably familiar. They collect enormous amounts of data, and we keep covering this subject. Analyze customer behavior, watch competitors, determine the price people are most likely willing to pay. Optimize. There's that word again, optimization. It's a beautiful word if you're presenting quarterly earnings. It's not always such a beautiful word if you're the one paying the bill. Now here comes my tinfoil hat moment again. Go ahead and put yours on as well. You can make fun of me. I have broad shoulders. We've spent years arguing about whether artificial intelligence would replace workers. Maybe we're looking at the wrong direction. Maybe the bigger disruption isn't replacing workers. Maybe it's replacing markets. Think about that. Real competition depends on uncertainty. And one company tries something different, another company responds. Somebody cuts prices, someone gains market share. Consumers benefit because businesses have to fight for your dollars. But if pricing recommendations increasingly come from algorithms analyzing that same kind of market signals, what happens to that unpredictability? Again, I'm asking the question. I'm not answering it because I think regulators, economists, and courts are only beginning to wrestle with it themselves. Then another piece of the puzzle appeared. Within days, President Trump publicly criticized gasoline retailers for not passing lower oil prices on to drivers. The Department of Justice and the Federal Trade Commission encouraged the state attorney generals to investigate possible antitrust violations, unlawful coordination, and consumer protection issues on petroleum markets. Translation, price fixing or price gouging. That's significant, not because it proves wrongdoing, it doesn't. Investigations aren't convictions, but it tells me something else. The people responsible for enforcing competition are asking whether competition itself is changing. That's a much bigger story than one lawsuit. Now let's follow the money, because eventually every investigation gets there. If gasoline prices stay just 5 cents higher than they otherwise would have, that doesn't sound like much. 5 cents? Most people won't drive across town to save 5 cents. But multiply 5 cents by billions of gallons of fuel sold every year, now we're talking about billions of dollars. And that's why optimization software exists. Not because companies hate everyday Americans, because tiny changes create enormous financial returns at massive scale. Wall Street understands that. Software companies understand that. And shareholders certainly understand that. The only people usually left trying to figure it out are you, the driver, standing at the pump wondering why filling your tank suddenly costs you another $20. Which brings us back to where this investigation started. The excuses, wars, hurricanes, pipelines, seasonal fuel blends, some of these explanations are absolutely legitimate. Markets are complicated. Energy markets are especially complicated, and nobody should pretend otherwise. But here's what I refuse to accept. Customers should stop asking questions. They should accept the markets the way they are. Trust the markets. We're being honest with you. We need to look a lot deeper. Markets require competition. Competition requires independent decisions. And if algorithms are changing how those decisions are made, consumers deserve to know. Not because technology is evil, not because artificial intelligence is evil, but because transparency matters. We keep coming back to that word week after week because it's really important to know what's actually going on. Now, here's what I think every viewer should do. Pay attention, not just to gasoline and insurance premiums. Watch your hotel and airline ticket prices. Watch grocery store delivery fees and online shopping prices. They change all the time. Start asking yourself one simple question. Am I seeing competition or am I seeing optimization? Those aren't necessarily the same thing anymore. Maybe this California lawsuit goes nowhere. Maybe regulators conclude everything is perfectly legal. Maybe they don't. Time will tell. But here's what I do know. Once you realize algorithms are quietly influencing more and more of the prices you pay every day, you start seeing them everywhere. And that's what happened to me. And that's why this story stopped being about gasoline. It's about something much bigger. For decades, Americans believed the free market meant businesses compete for your dollars. The question we should all be asking now is whether we've quietly entered an economy where the businesses compete less with each other and rely more on computers to determine what we'll tolerate paying. If that's the direction we're heading, this isn't the last investigation we'll be doing. It's probably just the first. Let's step back for a minute, because I think we've been looking at the story through the wrong windshield. This was never really about gasoline. Gasoline is just where millions of Americans notice something didn't feel right. Think about it. You notice the price of gas because you see it every day. It's on giant signs. You drive past it on your way to work. You remember what you paid last week. Most people can't tell you what they paid for the laundry detergent they bought 6 months ago. They can tell you what gas costs, and that's why the story matters. Gasoline became the first place motorists started asking, wait a minute, why does this always seem to work the same way? That's when my eyebrows went up again, because once I started pulling the thread, I couldn't stop seeing it. Not just at the gas station, everywhere. Book a hotel, the prices change. Look at it an hour later, it changes again. Airline tickets, same thing. Insurance renewals, same thing. Concert tickets, ride sharing, vacation rentals, even online shopping. Prices move constantly, sometimes by the minute. We've been told that's just technology making markets more efficient. Maybe, but let's follow that for a moment. Efficient for whom? Consumers or companies? Those aren't always the same thing. Here's something no one seems eager to talk about. Competition used to mean businesses try to beat each other for your money. One dealer advertises lower prices, another dealer offers free maintenance. Someone else cuts margins to earn your business. Consumers benefited because companies fought over every customer. They wanted your business, they wanted the relationship. But now ask yourself this: if businesses increasingly rely on algorithms to tell them the optimal price, are they really competing the way they used to? Or are they competing within the guardrails designed by software? That's not an accusation, it's a question. And those are two very different things. We've spent years worrying that artificial intelligence would replace workers. Maybe we've been watching the wrong movie. What if AI isn't replacing workers? What if it's replacing negotiation? Think about what a free market really is. It's millions of negotiations happening every single day. You decide what you're willing to pay. A business decides what it's willing to charge. Another business undercuts them. Consumers reward whoever offers the better value. That's competition. It's messy, it's unpredictable, and it's exactly why it works. Now imagine something different. Imagine algorithms that can process millions of pieces of information in seconds. They know what competitors charge. They know demand. They know buying habits. They know weather patterns, traffic counts, historical trends, consumer loyalty, and maybe even how much people have been willing to tolerate paying before changing their behavior. That is incredibly powerful. The technology itself isn't good or bad. It's a tool. The real question is who the tool serves. That's when my eyebrows went up a third time, because somewhere along the way, we stopped asking whether technology was helping us and started assuming that if something is more efficient, it must automatically be better. History says otherwise. Every major technological shift creates winners. It also creates losers. Sometimes we don't figure out which is which until years later. Now, here's something I think every consumer should remember. Maybe the California lawsuit goes nowhere. Maybe the courts determine everything was perfectly legal. Maybe the Department of Justice and the FTC investigators conclude markets are functioning exactly as they should be. That's entirely possible. Maybe not. We'll see. And if that's what the evidence shows, I'll be the first one to say so. But here's what nobody can argue with. Algorithms are making more decisions than ever before. They're influencing what we watch, what we read, what we buy, the routes we drive, and what advertisements we see. Increasingly, they're helping determine what we pay. This is not speculation. That's already happening. This is actually happening in your everyday life. On social media, you'll see something different than your friend. Maybe you got on Amazon to buy something and I'm paying something different than you are. Also with Uber, you go and apply for a car to come pick you up. Maybe they're paying a different rate. This is happening every single day because of algorithms. The only question is how much influence they've quietly accumulated while everyone was looking somewhere else. And maybe that's the real story. Not gasoline, not one software company, not one lawsuit. The gradual shift from markets driven by human competition to markets increasingly guided by automated optimization. Customers never voted for that. Most people never even knew it was happening. It simply arrived one app at a time, one software update at a time, one efficiency improvement at a time. Until one day we woke up and discovered that many of the prices shaping our daily lives may no longer be set the way we assumed. So here's my challenge to you, not as a journalist, not as the car coach, as a customer. This week, don't just fill up and drive away. Pay attention. Look at the stations around you. Watch how prices move. Compare them over several days. Do they compete, or do they seem to all move together in lockstep? Then look beyond gasoline. Watch your hotel searches, your airline tickets, your insurance quotes, your online pricing of all kinds of items. Start asking yourself a simple question. Am I watching competition or am I watching optimization? Because those aren't necessarily the same thing anymore. And here's why I wanted to bring you this story. Not because I think I have all the answers. I don't. But because somebody has to ask the question before they no longer are allowed to be asked. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this really is just about natural evolution of modern markets. I hope that's true. But if I'm right, then gasoline isn't the story. It's just the first place ordinary Americans noticed the future had already arrived. And once you see it, it's awfully hard to unsee it. What have you seen in your daily lives? Are prices changing all over the place? I'd love to get your input from all around the world because your comments matter too. Put them down below. If you like this video, give it a like and subscribe for more videos like this, and check out our car review channel, Car Smarts. You can support me by buying me a cup of coffee, and if you want even more content, check out the links in the description. I'm Lauren Fix. Thank you so much for watching.